The truth didn't just crack open, it detonated, ripping through the polished illusion of royal perfection like a blade through silk, exposing something so dark, so disturbingly obsessive, that it makes you question everything you thought you knew about power, grief, and revenge. Because this was never just a quiet holiday retreat, this was a secret, a ritual, a hidden obsession buried deep in shadows, waiting to be uncovered, and when it finally was, it didn't just shake the monarchy, it threatened to tear it apart from the inside. For years, the pattern was there, hiding in plain sight, almost mocking anyone who dared to notice. Every second week of March, she vanished. No royal convoy, no security detail, no public schedule, just silence. A queen slipping out through a narrow fire exit like a ghost avoiding detection, carrying heavy black bags with her own hands. That alone should have been enough to raise questions, but no one asked them, no one except him. Because while the world smiled at carefully staged photos and rehearsed unity, one pair of eyes was watching something very different unfold. Prince William wasn't just observing, he was calculating, connecting, waiting. 3 years. 3 years of silence, of studying patterns, of tracking movements that didn't fit the script. And when the pieces finally aligned, what he saw wasn't a harmless escape. It was a deliberate concealment. The footage didn't lie. A cloaked figure slipping through shadows, bags too heavy to ignore, cash disappearing from places it shouldn't, not transferred, not documented, just gone, quietly, repeatedly, enough to build something hidden, something that didn't want to be found. And that's when suspicion turned into something sharper, something personal, because this wasn't just about money. It wasn't just about secrecy. It was about intent. That night, there were no royal titles, no ceremony, just cold determination. Crawling beneath a vehicle, attaching a tracker like a man preparing for war, not investigation. This wasn't curiosity anymore. This was a hunt. And when that blinking red dot began moving across the map, it didn't lead to luxury. It didn't lead to peace. It led somewhere far more disturbing, a place that didn't exist for the outside world. Deep in isolation, surrounded by fences, watched by cameras, hidden from everything, a fortress. And what kind of retreat needs barbed wire and surveillance systems? That question hung in the air as the truth began tightening its grip. But William didn't go alone. No, because some truths are too heavy to carry without witnesses. He needed someone else to see it, someone who had to see it. King Charles III. There was no discussion, no gentle explanation, just a phone slammed onto a desk, a blinking red dot, and a silence so heavy it spoke louder than any accusation. The message was clear: come and see. The drive into darkness wasn't just physical, it was psychological, a descent, a quiet, suffocating realization building with every passing mile. No words, just tension, just the weight of something neither of them fully understood yet, but both feared. And when they arrived, it didn't feel like discovery. It felt like trespassing into something forbidden. The forest swallowed sound. The house stood there like it didn't belong to the living. And when the door opened, the smell hit first. Stale, damp, unnatural. Not a place of rest, not a place of healing. Something else entirely. Something preserved. Room after room revealed nothing. No comfort. No life. Just emptiness and scratches. Marks leading somewhere deeper. Something hidden. Something locked. And that door wasn't meant to be opened. 3 locks. Reinforced. Rusted but unbreakable until they weren't. Because some truths don't stay buried forever. When the final lock snapped, it wasn't just metal breaking. It was the last barrier between illusion and reality collapsing. And what waited on the other side wasn't just disturbing. It was obsession. Twisted. Violent. Unforgiving. Walls covered. Not decorated. Covered. Thousands of images, but not preserved. Destroyed. Slashed. Marked. Defaced with a precision that wasn't random. This wasn't anger. This was ritual. This was something repeated. Something practiced. A shrine. Not of admiration, but of hatred. And in that moment, everything changed. Because this wasn't just about jealousy. This was something far darker. And as the light exposed every brutal detail, one question burned louder than all the others. How long had this been happening right under their noses? And more importantly, what else was still hidden? The moment she stepped into that basement, everything shifted, but not in the way anyone expected. There was no panic, no denial, no desperate attempt to hide what had been uncovered. Instead, there was something far more chilling: control. Absolute terrifying control. She paused at the bottom of the stairs, her eyes scanning the broken locks, the exposed room, the 2 men standing inside her secret, and then, slowly, she smiled. Not a smile of fear, a smile of ownership, as if she had been waiting for this moment all along. Queen Camilla didn't flinch. She didn't plead. She didn't even try to explain. She walked forward like nothing had been taken from her, like nothing could be taken from her, brushing past King Charles III as though he were irrelevant, as though the weight of his crown meant nothing in this underground world she had built with her own hands. And then, right there, in front of him, she tore another photograph in half. Slow, deliberate, cruel, letting the pieces fall like ashes at his feet. That wasn't just defiance, that was a message. A declaration that this wasn't something she was ashamed of, this was something she believed in. And the words that followed didn't soften the blow, they sharpened it. She admitted everything. Not with regret, but with resentment. She spoke of shadows that never left her, of a presence that refused to fade, of a legacy that suffocated her every moment she existed within those palace walls. She didn't see herself as the villain. She saw herself as the one forced into madness, as the one who had to carve out a space just to breathe. And then she turned it on him, on Charles, accusing him, blaming him, saying his weakness, his inability to erase the past, had driven her to this. That this place, this grotesque altar, was born from his failure. It was a moment that should have broken her. Instead, it revealed her. And standing there, watching it all unfold, Prince William didn't react with shock anymore. That phase was over. What remained was something colder, sharper, a realization that this wasn't just emotional damage. This wasn't just psychological instability. This was calculated, funded, sustained. Because the real horror wasn't just on the walls. It was in the numbers. The silence in the car on the way back wasn't empty. It was suffocating. Charles collapsed inward, shrinking under the weight of what he had just seen, while Camilla sat tall, composed, almost untouched. Because she believed she still held the upper hand. She believed this would be buried like everything else. That reputation would outweigh truth. That the monarchy would protect itself, even from itself. But she miscalculated one thing. She underestimated how far William was willing to go. Because when those doors opened and Princess Anne was already waiting, something shifted again, but this time it wasn't subtle. It was final. The room wasn't lit brightly. No spectacle. Just quiet authority. And when those documents hit the table, it wasn't a warning. It was a verdict. No speeches. No emotion. Just cold reality. This wasn't about scandal anymore. This was about money, control, survival. And suddenly, the game Camilla thought she was playing flipped entirely. Because while she believed the monarchy feared exposure, Anne made it clear they feared something else far more. Financial collapse, asset seizure, total loss of control. And in that moment, Camilla's confidence cracked. Not shattered, but fractured just enough to show the first sign of something real, fear. Because now it wasn't about perception. It was about consequences. And behind closed doors where no cameras could reach, William moved with precision, locking himself away, tearing through documents, tracing numbers, connecting dots that led somewhere even darker than the basement itself. Because the money didn't just disappear. It came from somewhere. And when he found it, everything changed again. The account wasn't random. It wasn't hidden well enough. It was familiar. Too familiar. A number buried deep in memory, tied to something sacred, something untouchable. And when it matched perfectly, undeniably, it didn't just expose theft. It exposed betrayal on a level that couldn't be ignored. Because that money wasn't just money. It belonged to Princess Diana. Not personally, not directly, but symbolically. A fund created in her name, built to help others, to carry her legacy forward. And piece by piece, quietly, methodically, it had been drained, redirected, used not for charity, but for that place, that bunker, that shrine of hatred. And suddenly this wasn't just about family anymore. This was desecration, the kind that doesn't get forgiven, the kind that demands retribution. Mourning didn't bring calm. It brought action, swift, ruthless, unquestionable. No formalities, no titles, just execution of authority. Doors opened without permission, evidence thrown without explanation. And for the first time, Camilla wasn't in control of the narrative. She was inside it, dragged back to the very place she built, not as its master, but as its prisoner, forced to face every mark, every tear, every symbol of her own obsession, not with pride this time, but with consequence. And what followed wasn't justice in the traditional sense. It was something far more personal, a stripping away of power, of dignity, of control, piece by piece. Every photograph removed by her own hands, every blade picked up, every trace of what she created erased, not by others, but by her. And William didn't intervene, didn't soften it, because this wasn't about punishment alone. This was about understanding, making her feel the weight of what she had done. And when it was over, when the walls were bare and the room was empty, the final move came not with force, but with a signature. Ink on paper, authority transferred, access revoked, power gone, just like that. And as the locks snapped shut again, sealing that place forever, one truth lingered in the air heavier than anything else. This wasn't the end. Because secrets like this don't disappear. They echo, they linger, they wait. And somewhere behind palace walls, behind smiles and ceremonies, behind carefully crafted images of unity, something has already shifted.